What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Ear Hustling Podcast. Hope everyone is doing all right tonight, or this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where you are, I guess. What is up, Eric? I'm glad to see you. I feel like it's been forever.
Yeah, well, it's good to be seen. Glad to be alive. Things are going okay. Life has its challenges, but what are you gonna do? You're gonna bitch and whine and complain, or you just gonna absorb what life tries to throw at you and then move forward? I choose to move forward.
I respect it. You're really maintaining that 40s lifestyle. That's they just pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I respect that you're
Yeah. Hate
you're
to tell
embracing
you
it.
this. Hate to tell you this, Princeton, but I'm not in my 40s.
No, I meant that 40s of when you were born in the 1940s. I know you're not 40. But anyways, moving on.
Let me
What's
tell you
up,
how much I
Soleil?
dislike you right now. I'm gonna, yeah, Soleil, please. Yeah,
Whoa!
Soleil, please.
Hey,
I,
I have to make up for
I
my
can't
father.
save you. I can't save you.
Something seems a little different, Soleil. Something looks
I know. Eric hasn't even noticed, but
No,
that's what you get.
no, I
His
did.
eyes his
I've noticed.
eyesight is bad being born in the 40s.
that's
No, I noticed two things, Soleil. Before you even say anything, one, I noticed that your hair is different.
okay.
Secondly, I noticed that the background is different. I don't see the trademark pink background yet.
I haven't got the pink room together yet. I'm downstairs. Hopefully this weekend or early next week, I'll get hire some people to come paint the room for me.
Okay, and maybe if we're lucky when we're down there for WrestleMania weekend, maybe we might get a chance to get a tour of Chateau Soleil.
Absolutely, absolutely. I
Why pay someone?
had my first brunch, hosted my first brunch at the new place last weekend with
Okay.
my girls, and they were over here for 5 hours, and we were just cackling and drinking, and we had ribs, we had catfish, we had fried chicken wings, we had greens. It was good stuff.
Sounds like good vibes. We're
Yeah, good vibes.
next time send the invite to everyone. Maybe do a
Yeah,
quick fly-in.
yeah.
Hey,
I was about to say something, but you know what? That was the first housewarming, so I'm not going to say anything. So you just laid out this magnificent spread. I guess that's just for the first one. So I guess when Johnny and I come down there, I guess we'll just have like what peanut butter and jelly and maybe some milk.
I'll have a very nice charcuterie board for you. What
I
which
have no
isn't
idea.
bad.
I have no
You
idea
don't know
what
what
that
a
is. No,
you don't know what a
You don't
Prince.
you don't deserve it then. You don't deserve it.
Prince, do you know?
Ah, yes, with a nice layout of like meats and cheeses. Uh, I'm cultured, but
it's like so like a glorified deli tray.
so
Oh,
uncultured, so uncultured.
Eric,
It
you're fired.
Anyways, so uh,
Yeah. Let me stop and save myself.
just very briefly, I know our past two episodes we've kind of touched on this. Man, I don't have our picks. I know we made some picks, but just wanted to touch on the football games from this Sunday. Wanted to get your guys' opinion on them. First of all, did you watch them, and what were your thoughts on the results? I'll start with you, Soleil. Thoughts on the results of both games? Were you happy? Were you pleased? Were you displeased? Are you one of those people complaining about the refs and not about the fact that Josh Allen can't get it done? What's the deal?
Yeah, um, I don't remember what my picks were last week, but I think I went for the underdogs. And that was just purely because I just want somebody else to win, not based off reality. So the I didn't expect the Philly Washington game to go the way that it went. I turned that off probably maybe mid third quarter.
After the first
And
game?
yeah. I mean that was just crazy. So congrats to Philly. And then the second game, I was pulling for Buffalo. Our buddy P. Will, PP, Pat. He's not on the show because he's in deep mourning right now. Um, I was pulling for Buffalo, man, but yeah, Allen, you can't get it done. They got stuffed like four times on like 4th and 1 or 3rd and short or something like that, and it's like, gosh, you just got to be able to make a play against KC and end them. But so congrats to them. I'm not sure if I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. Like, out of all the combinations of what the Super Bowl could have been with the teams, this to me is the least attractive game. So I don't really care anymore uh, who wins that game. Eric?
Well, my prediction was Buffalo against Detroit. I understand how you feel, Soleil. I really can't blame Josh Allen. Josh Allen played a really clean game. Um,
They say every year.
what you say?
I said that's what they say every year.
No, I mean he did play a clean game. I mean there was a couple of missed opportunities, sure, but no fumbles, no interceptions by Josh Allen. Um, I think I am going to be one of those people that are going to bitch about the officiating, especially when it came to that fourth down where you had one referee spotted it, maybe like about a yard. The two officials had conflicting spots, and somehow, some way, it just seems to fall in Kansas City's favor. The jump ball, where the defender looked like he had possession first, it wasn't a simultaneous like reception interception. The defender had it first, and then the receiver got his ball on it second, and then the ball hit the ground. So I mean, you tell me. I mean, it almost kind of reminds me of like the old Boston Celtic days. I know this is a little bit before your time, but
Yeah. Oof.
things seem to just always seems to go a certain team's way, and I quite frankly I'm sick of it. Over the last like 3 years, the officiating has been terrible. So maybe James needs to become the head of NFL officials to kind of clean that up.
Perhaps. I don't know. You've been alive a lot longer than me. But for the
Long,
longest that I can remember, it's always the
oh,
officials, the officials, the officials this, the officials that. I mean, at this point, you would think people want to just start calling their own flags, like it's pickup or something. So
well, you
I
tell
don't know.
me. You tell me if you think the officiating was shoddy.
Well, it
No, I
sounds
mean,
like a little bitching and whining there, Eric. Like, I mean, you said you wasn't going to do that at the beginning of the show,
I
but
lied.
you're definitely making some
yeah,
excuses.
I
yeah.
lied. Gen X prerogative. I lied.
There it is. I don't know. I feel like, you always, if one team is somehow they have the refs on their side, but you can't make it close. Like, how about instead of complaining that you didn't get the first down, you don't spam the same play like it's Madden 5 times in a row and hope
Yeah,
and then put it in a situation where, well, I hope the refs give us this inch if it looks close. How about you like pass the ball or fake or do something, switch it up? So I don't know. That's how I feel about that. So, but I'm I want to see Mahomes three-peat. It'd be nice. I'd rather see that than
uh,
Do
I
you
don't.
feel the same way about Patrick Mahomes the way you felt about Carmelo Anthony? Is that like you're a Carmelo Anthony of the NFL?
that's not a very fair comparison considering Carmelo never got the big one.
Well, no, I understand that, but for the longest, you thought Carmelo was better than LeBron there for a while, didn't
And I mean, I still do. Oh, opinion hasn't changed. Opinion hasn't
you?
changed.
Okay,
Hmm.
so
That's neither here nor there.
okay. Well, my fault, but I just think that what these are supposed to be 50-50 calls. How in the world does it seem like 95% of the time they seem to go the Chiefs' way?
I think that's a little human bias that we have. If you there's one team you dislike more than the other, and if you already have those preconceived notions, then you're gonna notice it more. But that's just my opinion.
Well,
But
I can tell you this just to kind of change subjects just ever so slightly, and then we can go ahead and pivot forward. The football national championship, the two college teams that I absolutely hated the most played each other. Ohio State against Notre Dame. Ugh.
and then I
What does
mean,
that mean?
you
I mean, they won their games. I mean, what
They
does that
they
mean?
they
Like,
did. No. I'll give them credit. There wasn't any controversy in the national championship games. I think that the
Hmm.
better team on that particular day won, and I can't stand either one of those teams.
I'm not a college football hater. I have my team I like. We unfortunately weren't there. Uh, I didn't watch the national championship.
Okay.
Easy for me. So, but I wanted to move on. So, like I said, I wanted to briefly touch on the games, but to get to our main topic of this evening, I wanted to talk on AI, artificial intelligence, and kind of just how the times have changed, how media has changed, how journalism changed, how it's just really been affecting the world, not just lately, but over time. But I feel like, man, the speed at which AI is taking over is almost scary. So I want to first go to you guys and ask you guys, have you used any AI apps? Are you guys familiar with like your Chat GPT or any of the other services available? Do you use them at all? I'll start with you, Saleh.
Yeah, I for a brief period last year I used it for my work, and then the the company didn't know that we were using it, and they
That's dangerous.
sent out a memo that we can't use it at all. So AI for us for what the type of work that I do, we use it on many different levels. So the way um, we automate bidding, we automate um, um, like ad writing. That was specifically how I was using it. Um, and the concern from the company was, whatever you're inputting in there, like these companies gather that information, and who knows what they're going to use it for. They could use it for good, they could use it for bad. So I was an early proponent of Google Gemini. I've
Yeah,
never used Chat GPT or the new one that's out. And now I'm at the point where, I mean, outside of the type of automation I use for work, outside of that, and like just I don't even use Siri on my phone anymore. I do have Amazon Alexa, and I just use that for like silly stuff. Um, um, and then what's the other one? Oh, the Google devices. I use it for
hey
silly
Google.
stuff. Yeah. But like I'm not writing papers with it anymore, or really plugging in sensitive information, because who knows how that's being used.
That's fair. Eric, do you have any experience with using AI at all?
Yeah, I do. Like Soleil brought up, Alexa, Siri, Bixby for certain Google devices. Most recently, I used. Oop, excuse me. Sorry, Soleil.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep. You
See?
use it. There you
See?
go.
Most recently, when I had to go through and start searching for a new job, I did use some AI software to reformulate my resume. So that was extremely helpful. And because of AI, I think I wind up getting um, my resume wind up being plugged a lot faster than me going through myself trying to figure out a way to highlight experiences. So yeah, I've used it, and probably have used it. Actually, you know what? We use it every day. If anybody does like Google Maps or MapQuest or anything like that, we're using AI. That's
That's true.
probably one of the more overlooked aspects of AI. That was probably the first big AI app that everybody started using.
Yeah, yeah, that is very true. Google, I feel like it's starting to take a back seat almost to Chat GPT. It feels like as a lot of people start using that more and more. But Google is certainly the OG in a way. One thing that was interesting to me that you said, Soleil, was the fact that your job kind of didn't want you using it just because of the sensitive information that can be put into it. And we all know that it kind of, or for people who don't know, AI, the way they've developed it is so that it can learn on its own. And so I guess if you give it that information, it can learn from it. But what are your guys' thoughts on AI in either the workplace or even these days in school. A lot of kids are using AI in school to either write their essays, to do their math homework, their science homework. Pretty much these days, it's being used for anything, and it can just spit out those answers. So, what are your guys' thoughts on it being used in the workplace and school, and should it be allowed? I'll start with you, Saleh.
Yeah. So real quick. So out here, I'm a part of a group of about 40 women, Black women. We call ourselves Black Girl Magic. We do a scholarship every year. This year, we're going to select 4 students, and they're each going to get $40,000 a year as part of the scholarship. So, excuse me. So last week, I was grading applications, and I don't take any pleasure in this, but there was 2 girls. They don't know each. Well, I don't think they know each other, but they had the exact same essay, literally word for word, everything. And so I had to mark them down on their essays. They're not going to get a scholarship. It's
Mm,
unfortunate, but like AI is good, but sometimes you can read it or see it and know that this isn't an original thought. In this
mm,
case, I had 2 different applications um, that literally was like, oh, it's important to have Black role models such as Oprah Winfrey and blah, blah, blah.
mm.
Both of them said the exact same thing, like
Oh
5 paragraphs, 3, 4, 500 words. It was exactly the same. So um, I personally, like, I mean, I went to college, university in the late 90s, early 2000s. Um, and I was one of those types of people that just procrastinated. And if I had a paper due at 8 a.m., I could get on the computer at midnight and type something out and get an A on it. And I think kids need to just use their original thought and use original research to come up with ideas and not just regurgitate um, um, things from AI software. And I don't know how that plays in university. And maybe Prince, you could talk to that since you're in school. But like, if I was a teacher in that environment, like, am I am I really conveying to students the value of learning and having independent thought and research if I'm encouraging, or yeah, I mean, I'm encouraging them to use AI software if I give them a good grade because they use AI AI software. Like, kids aren't going to really learn and retain that information because they just typed in a few words and regurgitated something the AI software said.
Yeah, that's true. Before I get to you, real quick, Eric, I just wanted to touch on, like you said, about university. So for myself, I don't have to do a lot of essays these days anymore, but whenever you do have to submit an essay or submit like an original work that you have to do yourself, they actually just like back in your olden days, Eric, how you probably had to submit stuff through for
Carrier pigeon.
plagiarism. Had you had Yeah. Now you had to put things through an app for plagiarism. They actually have an app now for it's usually like the same ones you can submit it through, but that detects AI if it was created through AI generated as well, and you have to submit it through those, and that's how universities are using that to check. So there is kind of uh, some fail safes in play to make sure everyone's not just cheating up a storm. But Eric, what are your thoughts?
You know what? I come from a time where when I was in like elementary and middle school
Oh
that
my
we
God.
would have to Oh, shut up. No, we would have to go to the library and we would have to go do our researches through various books in the library.
Encyclopedias.
Encyclopedias. We
Mm.
would have to go through and we would actually have to look for this information, and then we would actually have to formulate our essays from scratch. There was no AI, there was no, just typing in Google search. There wasn't any of that. So a lot of the papers that we had were original papers. Um, so I'm kind of like in that unique space where I was the end of the encyclopedia age, and it
I
began.
had some.
And the begin. You had some, really?
I did.
You
I
know what? You
remember
actually probably
when
did
I was
because
younger. I had some.
you know what? I do remember, James, when he was like in college, having to use encyclopedias for research. And then of course your mom being in an educational background, I'm pretty sure she probably utilized a lot of those
Yeah.
a lot of that old school stuff.
I never
So
used them.
you never used them?
No, never had
Yeah,
to
I
use them,
kind
but
of
I did
figured that.
have them.
Yeah, you had them, but you didn't use them. You
Yeah.
had, I mean, you were probably one of the first kids that probably had a laptop before the age of 10, your own laptop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about
yeah,
something like
Brad. Yeah, Brad. But no, just I come from a different school where, learning was different. Now you very rarely even see books in a modern day school. Everything is digital. So it definitely has its benefits. I think that you probably get a little more precise when you do your term papers or essays. But man, it was stressful as hell. But at the end of the day, it was kind of fun knowing that you knew how to research certain information. Certain things would like spark your interest and it'll lead you down a different avenue as opposed to typing in 5 or 6 words and it just lays out an entire 500-word essay. So I think that it's much easier um, for people now, as opposed to the hard research that we had to do back when I came up, in the 40s.
Hey,
just
hey, hey,
yeah.
Prince, real quick, since you're the youngest person on here, do you know what Dewey Decimal is?
Dewey Decimal. Isn't that like the
Du-
system that was used to look up encyclopedias or something like that?
Okay, okay. I just wanted
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see if you
See.
ever learned what that was. Like
Yeah.
that's what Eric and I had to do. Dewey
Well, I
Decimal to find certain books and whatnot. Okay,
Look
okay.
at look at
yeah,
Princeton
see,
paying
you guys
attention.
try and test me. I know my cursive. I can read. I'm part of like the last stage of like we learned that stuff, so
No,
I can still say I know it. I can still. I was
and
born in the 1900s, just like you. Born in
man,
the
shut up,
1900s,
shut up. What, 98?
just not the 1800s like you, Eric. But
Man, shut up.
so
So you're
I
pretty.
mean,
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're very fortunate that you come from um that you come from a parent that was very, very heavy into education.
yeah,
I teased you and stuff about like, the computers and all that other stuff, but you were really ahead of the curve in a lot of aspects when it came to learning. It's like, yeah, you learned a lot of that stuff in school as far as like the new way of doing things, but you also had the benefit of Shay teaching you a lot of the old school ways too. So, and then plus you're just like a naturally, gifted person, when it oh, never mind. Never mind.
Don't hype
this
them
isn't
up.
gonna
Don't
get me
hype
to
them up.
say Godfather. This isn't gonna get me to
No,
say
no,
it.
I'm
So.
just calling a spade a spade. I mean, you can
Thank you,
teach
thank you.
you can teach
Mm,
somebody as much as you want, but it's
mm.
really up to that individual if they want to go ahead and take those extra steps, take pride in their
Yeah,
work. And you take pride in your work. So, that's what makes you such an excellent student, and that's why you're going to be an excellent teacher or social
appreciate it.
worker or whatever field you decide to go into. So now I'm
I
done sucking up to you.
I will push back, I guess, a little bit from at least you, Eric. I can't remember if you brought this up either. So, but on the fact that I don't think that just because it's easier to necessarily write essays, and I don't even think it has to just apply to essays, but it's easier to get that information from AI, that it's a
Mhm.
bad thing just because you don't have to, get it out the gutter and look it up in an encyclopedia.
Get it out the gutter.
I don't think it's a bad thing that AI has made it where like if you look something up, you can have the answer to it. I think it's the fact that like in your case, Soleil, the people aren't wise enough you can use it as a format. You can use it as a way to get information, like as a way to formulate your thoughts. Like you don't know where to start on an essay about historical Black figures, so you type it in AI. They give you a whole essay, and then maybe you can be like, oh, okay, that's something I can start to base it off of. I feel like you can kind of use those things as a base, and as long as you're not copying things word for word, I mean, it's no different than Google to me. Like, it's like if you're looking for information now, you Google it, the information is already there and it's giving you the information you need. That doesn't mean you're necessarily like stealing the information. It's there. You just got to formulate it into your own words, I feel.
Well, and in my case, the example that I gave, the essays they had to write was about what does it mean to have strong Black women as role models to you. So
Yeah, that's a little
that's
tough.
a yeah, that's an internal thing that
Right.
you have to pour out.
Yeah.
Oprah is an amazing African American woman. So is Michelle Obama, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not everybody's role model. And so, yeah, you're right. There are AI affects more than just essays. But in my case, it's like it's supposed to be you're writing about yourself and what inspires you and who motivates you, and so that's where I want to hear about your grandma. I want to hear about a teacher. I want to hear about your mom. I want to hear about your little sister who is fighting cancer and she's your inspiration. It needs to be personal. So, but
That's
yeah,
true.
you're right. You're absolutely right.
No, I do. I definitely get that. So with artificial intelligence these days, it's also had a huge impact on social media. It's had a huge impact on social media. It's had a huge impact on journalism, and it kind of continues just to change the way that we get that information and that it's developed. How do you guys feel? I'll start with the social media side about artificial intelligence and how it's kind of running rampant. And a lot of times, I don't know if people know this, but we brought it up briefly last episode. But even on like YouTube, I know it happens on Facebook. A lot of these videos that are being developed that used to be developed by content creators and people used to take the time to look up the information and get actual thoughts out, it's a lot of it's being developed by AI now. You hear the generic AI sound in the background. It's got AI videos, and I don't know. It's being pushed out. Just it's for money. It's just being pushed out as many AI videos to try and get in the algorithm. How do you guys feel about that? I'll start with you, Slay.
Yeah. So I think it's a huge problem. Um, some of the AI generated stuff can be funny, like when they do press conferences of athletes, and
Yeah.
Jared Goff gets up there like I own Minnesota's ass. Like, and it looks first, it's Jared Goff. It is him. His mouth is moving. It's not off. His voice sounds just like Jared Goff, but
Mhm.
he would never get up there and say that stuff. So while those are like funny and safe, um, I saw AI video of something that President Biden said that he didn't say. And
Yeah,
so then it becomes a question of, well, what is truth? What is what I'm watching the truth? Is it real? Did he really say that? And then you have to check all these other sources to see like, oh, okay, this outlet is saying he did say it, or that he didn't say it. So that's the confusing part. That's the danger in this. And as we go forward, like what is the truth?
that's very true. That one thing I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's very true. I think they call them deep fakes is
Yeah.
where they they use basically all the stuff that the person has ever said, or it doesn't even have to be a lot these days. You can get like a sentence for someone and AI can match their voice word for word and have it say whatever you want, and that's scary. That's scary to think about. What are your opinions there?
I agree. You know what? You brought something up with President Biden. I remember a couple of years ago that the UK President Zelensky had spoken in the United States, and they were outside, and um, President Biden had his arm around him, but they showed President Biden groping the UK president,
Mm.
and it was a deep fake video, but it looked so real that you had to question, like, damn, did he just grope this dude in front of like millions of people, on TV and social
Yeah.
media. So you do have to be very, very, um, I guess, aware. You kind of have to take a person's tendencies into consideration too, before you can even think about whether or not this stuff is real, or whether it's fake. But all of this AI conversation kind of reminds me of the movie I Am Legend. Did either one of you guys
Mm.
see I Am Legend with Will Smith?
Hmm.
I'm surprised you
Kind of.
didn't say I Robot with Will Smith, but
Shut up. but but it that movie just kind of foreshadowed where we are now.
mm,
Where AI, even the Terminator, if you go way back to the original Terminator movies, the whole premise behind that movie was AI. The Terminator was AI,
yeah,
and we're not too far off where we've got like humanoid type figures that are able to pretty much do any job that a human can do, just minus having to pay that human.
yeah, and I think that's a very good point. And business, those high up in the business field are really looking forward to that point where they can. Oh, it's already happening with some jobs. Like a lot of artists, they're losing their job. A lot of coders are losing their job. Things that you can get artificial intelligence to do, like you said, for quote unquote no charge. Of course, there is a little bit behind that, but and one thing we had touched on briefly last week too is fast food in the fast food industry. Like when they're taking your order, that's done by AI now. So you know when they can replace you, they'll try to. They'll definitely try to. I feel so, and I don't know. It's kind of scary to think that might be where we're headed to. But Soleil, I know you had some questions more on the journalism side of things, so I wanted to switch it up and hand it off to you and see what you had to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it was last year or maybe 2 years ago at the latest. Sports Illustrated axed their entire editorial writer team in favor of AI generated content. So my first question would be like, have you read an article um, and got the vibe that it was AI generated? And if you have, I would say I have. And in most cases, it will have like a disclaimer that says it's AI generated. But
Mm.
um, have you ever seen something AI generated or that you felt was AI generated? And do you find it trustworthy? So I'll go back to you, Prince.
Yes, yes, I definitely can say that. I don't know if I've necessarily paid attention to see the little disclaimer, but just being involved with, I don't use it that often, but knowing how AI is, it kind of formats things very similarly and has a lot of the same wording in a way. So when you're reading something, you can kind of get the feel like this doesn't sound like a person would say things like this. Like it doesn't sound like how a person would talk. And I've definitely got that feeling before reading something. But as far as trusting the information, I do. I actually do trust the information. I'm one of those people who I'm kind of embracing the changes to AI and how it's coming. And I feel like it uses the internet as its learning platform. It browses all through, I think, up to a certain point, a certain year. And I've kind of embraced it. And I think the information is just as trustworthy as if a person looked up the information and wrote the article of it. Can it is some of it is slop, and you do have to see past that. But people put out slop too, so I don't think that's an AI issue. But yeah, I trust it.
I'll follow up with that before going to Eric. So do you ever question, because you just said it's getting the information from the internet. The internet has a lot of garbage on it. Like it doesn't, internet isn't a truth platform. Like people have opinions. So do you think the creators of these AI softwares, do you think that they can influence the algorithm to tilt towards a certain perspective, um, to their truth, whatever that may be, rather than just giving an unbiased, scientific, you know, response to whatever query you put into it?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I see what you're getting at, but I think yes, there is bias when you create. You can create it. They purposely put bias in it, so you can't have the AI say whatever. Because when the biggest problem that it had when it first came out was that you had cases where like people were getting it to say like the N word and they were getting it to say off yourself and getting it. So they purposely had to develop biases where like it couldn't generate things like that. It couldn't generate uh, just to say bad words, if you will. But I'm sure you can generate it to write articles that are more left wing or more right wing or whatever you feel.
I didn't
Whatever.
say that.
I
I didn't
know,
bring
but
that up.
you were insinuating. You're
You
kind
brought
of
it. No,
insinuating.
no, 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 no. I'm
But
just
you
speaking
can,
in general.
yeah, you can get your
Water
narrative across.
is the Earth flat? Like that's either a
Yeah,
truth, yes or no. Is water wet? Yes or no. Like,
right.
can you bend it to say, well, in actuality,
Yeah,
water is relative, and it doesn't, it
right.
doesn't have to be wet. Like,
Yes, yes,
this.
you certainly can, but people can say that flat earthers exist. So I mean, people can do that too. So I think it's just up to you to disdain that information and use it like you would read an article from a person and just use that information and go from there as one source. Get your multiple sources, and that's how you got to cross reference things. You can't just go with one source and be like, this is the truth. But yeah, that's just how I feel about it. But
Eric,
yeah, it could definitely be biased.
um, I kind of forgot my own question. Oh, Eric, have you read articles that you thought were AI generated, and how does that affect your view of truthful content?
Yeah, I definitely have. I still subscribe to the Detroit News. I've got it digitally, and I also get a physical paper that's delivered on the weekends. And even
Physical
the
paper.
Yeah, a physical paper. Yes, yeah, I actually still have a physical paper that's delivered, even though it's about like this big now. It's not the same as it used to be back in the day. Um, but I even noticed that there's different styles, the digital version versus the physical version. So yeah, absolutely. I think that the digital probably is AI just because of how fast everything is changing. So like we were talking about a little earlier, TMZ was one of the first major media outlets that went with, AI in terms of like updating stories.
Hmm.
So I think if you want to keep up and if you want to be as accurate as possible, you have to use AI because everything is constantly changing now. The world is so big, but yet so small. For the most part, I do trust the sources. If it starts sounding a little outlandish, then yeah, I have to lean towards nah. This is like AI generated. Maybe enough due diligence wasn't done. I don't know, but uh, just to give an example, said that I wasn't going to bring it up, but the 2024 election, not going to get too deep into politics, probably 90% on both sides was AI generated. Because as soon as something happened,
Hmm.
bam, within like moments, like they're eating the pets, they're eating the pets of the. I mean, how fast was that developed into a news story? How fast was AI used to generate those memes? The look
Yeah.
that that
The
Kamala
songs.
Harris was given, the songs. So I mean, what normally would take like a couple of weeks, it was done like in a matter of hours. How else were they going to generate content that fast if they didn't use AI?
That's true.
Yeah. Eric, I just canceled my physical subscription to my newspaper about a month ago. So I was hanging in there as long as I could, but I had to give it up. But that brings up another point. So I grew up in Detroit, um, and we're talking about AI. We're talking about a little bit about journalism. Grew up in Detroit. There was Bill Bonds, Devin Skillian, who just retired, um, Carmen Harlan, who I had a crush on. Everybody had a crush on her. Sherry Margolis, I had a crush on her as well. But when I was growing up, when it came to the news, like I could watch the news. These are all local people. I could watch the news, and what they said was truth. Like I didn't question it. There was an opinion to it. They just reported the news. There was a fire on 6 Mile in Wyoming. Okay, like that's the news. Like they didn't bring in, AI or any experts to talk about it or anything like that. So I'm getting to my point. So I kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the conversation. What is your truth? Where do you get your news now? Obviously, Eric, you said you have the physical and the digital. What other sources do you use to get your news and that you feel is that is truthful? And I'll start with Eric again.
On a national level, I actually watch a lot of BBC when I want to get a
Big
unbiased.
Black.
No,
Oh, okay. Just
no,
making sure.
not Big Black Sea. Oh my God.
Oh,
I can see your new surroundings has not changed. Has not changed you. The British Broadcasting Company. So whenever I want to know about national news, as far as like stuff that happened in the United States without all of the fluff from CNN or Fox or anybody else, I go to foreign uh, news networks just to kind of get an overview on what was going on. Um, for example, what was going on between Tuesday and Wednesday with the executive order that was signed that was going to basically halt like 2,600 government funded programs via executive order. All they did was just say that what was going to happen, and they didn't have any of the Trump bashing, or they didn't have any of the left wing or right wing opinions on it. So I and also listen to a lot of local radio too. That doesn't seem quite as bad as the video media. Um, but yeah, those are really the only sources that I trust. Is like Canada. You stayed in the Detroit area, so that Princeton, that we can get the Canadian news on like regular, antenna TV. So that's another good source if I want.
antenna TV.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
He doesn't know about that.
Every TV
aluminum
has the.
foil.
Yeah, no, but yeah, even on these smart TVs, you can go ahead and you can get Channel 9, like the Canadian station, just to kind of get different viewpoints on how folks view America and how they report our news as opposed to us. Because I think we've gotten out of reporting the news, and now everything is news plus an opinion.
True. Yeah, that's good.
I like that. I'm gonna come back to that because that's a question that I'm gonna have, but I'll let Prince answer.
Yeah, I would say for me, probably YouTube, honestly, which is crazy. But when I open my YouTube app, it'll have like a recent events tab. You know how they always curate videos for you based on your feed, and that's how I kind of see like what current events are going on. It'll always have like different videos, and what I like about YouTube is the fact that you can get multiple sources for the same information. So kind of like what you said, Eric, about not just having uh, one side of it, because depending on the side, they'll portray the information differently. But you can kind of watch, if you feel like taking the time to, you can watch multiple videos and really get a sense of whatever event it is, whether it be the fires that were going on in LA. I remember I learned about that from YouTube. I had opened up the app and there was so many videos that were going on about it, or about the stock market when the stock market crashed. Opened up YouTube, so that's where a lot of the information that I get comes from, because I like to have different short videos about it, and that makes it easier for me to digest as well, because someone that you can see a breakdown of it. And I wanted to put this out there. My mom put, I hope the upcoming generations can think on their own and not rely solely on AI, which
Absolutely.
I agree.
So Prince, don't ever type in BBC thinking you're gonna get British
I,
Broadcasting Channel. I don't want your
I'm not that
feed
young.
to.
I'm not.
I
I'm
don't
not.
want
Yeah,
your
I'm
you.
not
feed
that
to
young.
start showing other things,
I know. I know what
like
that.
Big Black Coffee or something like that. I don't want
Right,
you to see
right,
that.
right, right. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I'm not that young. I know the those terms. I know a few more than just that, but
Do you really?
So for oh,
whoa,
that's a we
whoa,
don't
wrong
need to know.
show, wrong show. No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's next
I don't
week's
want to
topic.
know.
That's next week's topic.
Yeah, I don't want to know. I get my news from TikTok. I don't want to
Excuse
know.
me. Sorry about that.
No problem. I get my news from TikTok. There's a couple people that I follow, just strictly they curate some videos for you.
Hey, put that back up, P.
Your feed is gonna be looking real suspect. Your feed is gonna be looking real suspect.
Wow.
There's a couple people I follow on TikTok. They just report the news. There's no opinion. It's just it's clean, and it's like I find those trustworthy. So I do think TikTok is going to go away, but that's another topic for another show. Um, but anyway, going back to you, Eric, you talked about opinions, and I kind of touched on it. Like I like my news to be without opinion. I don't need a panel to discuss their biased viewpoints. Um, and so there's and all the I watch a lot of like sports talk TV, First Take, The Facility, and others. And I remember last year there was a former journalist, actually. His name is Chris Broussard. He
Oh
covers
yeah,
the
yeah.
NBA.
Love Chris Broussard.
And he, Victor Wembanyama, basketball phenom, NBA Rookie of the Year last year. But anyway, he was up for Defensive Player of the Year award. And Chris Broussard, he's a voter. And he said, well, he's going to play a long time. He's going to have a long career. So I'm not going to vote for him. And Rudy Gobert wound up winning the Defensive Player of the Year award.
Travesty.
Although, yeah, it was a travesty. Wemby's numbers were better. He should have won it. But where I'm getting at is, has opinion affected our coverage of events or stories? Like in this case, he didn't vote for him just because he's young and he's going to have many other opportunities to win the award. And in the NBA, like these types of awards goes towards your compensation. There's incentives for it. If you win certain awards or like get an all NBA team or something like that, when you come up for your next contract, that could determine if you're a max player, super max player, 300 million versus 150 million, like stuff like that. So I say all that to say, or to ask, like, has opinion-based journalism or opinion-based talk shows, has it gone too far in its coverage of celebrities, best athletes, and what awards they win, things like that?
I'm going to be honest. I think that journalism has always had an element of an opinion base to it. Now it's just more accepted when people voice their opinion on certain things. Um, you and I both could be journalists. We both could look at the exact same thing and have two different opinions depending on whether we like that person or not. Victor Wembanyama, that's a great example. Yeah, he should have won Defensive Player of the Year. Chris Bouchard, I think he's on a show now. I think it's called like First Things First.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at it this way. Derrick Rose was the youngest MVP in the history of the NBA. He wound up getting hurt. I think it was the following year and was never really the same. So a lot of people thought that Derrick Rose was going to have many MVP seasons, but you just never know what's going to wind up happening. We'll even go back a little further than that. You guys remember Andrew Bynum, who was with the LA Lakers?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who
so
so injured
Andrew
playing.
Bynum, young phenom, like the first 3 or so years he was with the Lakers, he was an all-star. Kobe, Gasol, and him, that was their big three. All of a sudden, Andrew Bynum just fell off the face of the NBA earth. He went from being a dominant all-star center to a bum, for lack of a better phrase. Um, but people were thinking at one point Andrew Bynum was going to be more dominant than Shaq. Again, opinion. So there's always been some sort of an opinion. But now I just think it's more heavily accepted that people's opinion is based on fact. I love Stephen A. Smith, on First Take. Some things Stephen A. Smith do, he completely goes off the freaking rails. He turns it into a personal into a personal thing, and a lot of people consider that as fact. So it's always been there. I think it's always going to be there. Doesn't make it right, but I think that it's always going to be there. But that's what makes it entertaining too, that human element.
Yeah, I agree with that last point that you said. It's hard to say with these, especially with these sports shows, like saying that they use a lot of opinion over fact because a lot of times, they're trying to get views. They're trying to be entertainment more so than just a factual base. Let's be honest, a lot of them were smart enough to where they could break down sports in just a factual basis and all X's and O's, and nobody would tune in because nobody really, as much as we say, oh, we want the facts and we want X's and O's, that's not nearly as entertaining as Stephen A's top 10 list of who he feels is the best player this year. You kind of tune in. I feel like that's what it's based on.
So I'm
And
getting
then
some. I was getting some feedback there. You guys?
I think Soleil might be
Okay.
type.
Sorry,
You're good.
I
You're
was
good.
typing.
But
So you and those $50,000 nails.
yeah, that's what it is. But even then, as far as like the opinion thing, and as far as the voting thing, I feel like that's why you have multiple voters. That's why you have a lot of voters, not just one person. So that even if it is opinion based, hopefully the amount of voters offsets the fact the narratives, which is not true. We all know when it comes to like especially MVP, it's kind of different each year what they expect. One year it was Russell Westbrook broke the record for or triple doubles or average a triple double, and no one expected that, so he got the MVP. Well, he did it again the following year, and he didn't get MVP. So it's like it kind of changes narratively based on whatever it happens to be around that time. There's no set like you do this, you get the award. So that's just kind of how I feel like it's always going to be. But yeah, opinions definitely affect journalism. Wanted to ask you guys: have you guys been seeing the videos about Hillman Talk? I have no clue what that is. I don't know.
No
No,
idea.
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what
I'm gonna
Hillman
look it
Talk
up. I'm gonna look it up right now, but no, I have no
Yeah,
idea
let's
what
look
that
it up.
is.
is. Yeah, I haven't heard about it, but that's all I have for as far as my thoughts on the journalism and as far as like artificial intelligence. Unless you guys have anything else you wanted to put out there or add, and unless you guys find out who this Hillman Talk person is shortly, then I guess we could go ahead and get to this day in history, which if I recall correctly, isn't going to be quite this day in history, but close enough.
I've got two. I'm going to bring up what actually happened in this day in history first. The first NBA Hall of Fame class was elected in 1936. I'm sorry, the first baseball Hall of Fame class was elected in 1936 on this day, January 29th.
Oh, nice.
But
So you graduated.
1940. 1940.
Yeah.
But what I also wanted to bring up was something that actually happened on January 28th, and it was very sad. It was something, unfortunately, that I saw live on television, and I believe Soleil did too. And that's when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded in midair, and we lost 7 astronauts. that put a serious halt on space exploration. I think there were maybe 4 space shuttle flights that happened after that. But yeah, that was probably our version of 9/11 before 9/11 happened, as far as like one of the most tragic incidents that was seen on television. So that happened 39 years ago yesterday.
Wow. I learned about that in school. Obviously, I didn't see it in person, but I can't even imagine. I know, and it's not funny, but I know one thing you brought up earlier was about the fact that Big Bird was supposed to be on it,
Yeah,
and yeah, no, like you said, I can't imagine having to explain to your kids like that Big Bird just exploded, and they'd be freaking scarred for life. So, man,
can you
that's
imagine what that would have did to Sesame Street? Could they have even continued to put out content, knowing that Big Bird died on worldwide television?
I know that
Mhm.
would. This is okay. So compliments of AI. Here we go. Uh, Hashtag Hillman Talk is a social media trend inspired by Hillman College, the fictional HBCU from a different world. It's a
Oh,
nostalgic and cultural movement celebrating black college life, HBCU pride, 90s fashion, and the impact of the show on education and culture.
that's cool.
Oh, I
Learn
know
something
my
today.
parents
That's
love
cool.
me. Yeah, actually,
Learn
that
something
makes
today.
me want to go back and watch a couple more episodes of Different World.
Never saw
Yeah,
it.
You never saw it? Oh, you
it's a
really should go
shame.
and see it. That right there was like a cultural change, because that was one of the first TV series that depict college life of a black person. So that whole Bill Cosby thread was like so instrumental. But that's a story for another day. I think we
Gotcha.
should actually do like how um, like monumental television shows during our lifetime that might have changed our perspective on things. Yeah, for me, it was the Cosby Show in Different World.
That could be a good
Mhm.
one. To, another good episode. But so, hey, I think this perhaps, maybe I'm wrong, but this could be a first time,
Second,
second time spitballing with.
second, yeah.
Okay, okay. You want the main stage? You want to
Yes,
stay like
let's
this?
do it.
All
Spotlight,
right.
please.
All right. So I got to get something off my chest. And this is something we've never done on the show, but indulge me for a second. So I want to read a Bible passage out of Luke 13, verses 1 through 4. It says, "Now there were some present at that time who told Jesus about the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mixed with their sacrifices. Jesus answered, 'Do you think that these Galileans were worse sinners than all the other Galileans because they suffered this way? I tell you, no. But unless you repent, you too will all perish. Of those 18 who died when the tower in Siloam fell on them, do you think they were more guilty than all others living in Jerusalem?'" So recently, there was a number of fires that happened in California, and it disgusted me hopping on TikTok and other social media, seeing holier than thou people try to say that this disaster, this tragedy, was God's judgment because of a fire, because people were losing their lives, people were losing their possessions, they were losing their memories, their history in that area, and it just absolutely disgusts me. And this is a passage where Jesus is saying a few things, but the point that I want to focus on was that just because the 18 people died in a tower very tragically doesn't mean that they were any worse off than other people. And TikTokers and other influencers were quick to say, well, California is godless, California is liberal, so they're getting what they deserve. And those people did not come out and say that when hurricanes went through Florida and went through North Carolina and Georgia, even. Uh, that wasn't God's judgment. So we need to stop trying to use God as a judgment for tragedies that happen. These things happen in life, and this isn't a judgment on you as a person. It's not. It doesn't matter what your religion is. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, conservative, liberal. Like, these people are losing their memories, and you wouldn't want them to do that to yourself. So if you were going through that, so we need to get back to decency. We've lost that in this country, and this is just a reminder that bad things happen to good people all the time, and we need to stop trying to make a statement about it, whether it's religious, political, or anything else, because honestly, I don't think God cares. So that's my spitballing.
Yeah, that was very powerful, very very good. I agree, definitely agree. I believe for next week we don't have anything planned quite yet, but I like that idea that you had earlier, Eric. But we will get with everyone and let you guys know what we decide to do. But unless you guys have anything to add, it's been from our mouths to your ears. And for Patrick's sakes, I'll just act like this is a flyer that says, "Hi, Mom."
Get well, Pat.
Yeah, get well, Pat. Oh, and didn't